Hi, Mark. Yeah, Wednesday, January the 28th, just after 8 a.m. Eastern. That's just after 1 p.m. GMT. US session well underway. Let's have a look how the market's performing, starting on the dollar index. Extreme sell-off yesterday, adding to what we've seen for the last week. Everything acting against the US dollar for now. The trend, technically, sentiment, bias. No demand for US dollars and reflected in the way we see that the index came down, particularly in the late into the US session yesterday. Bit of a fight back today. Not much to talk about yet. I've got support at 95.69. I've got resistance at 96.11. We'll see whether buyers can stage any kind of a realistic fight back here and recoup some of these losses. Today, relevant that we have the Fed interest rate decision, the FOMC, and that's at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Rates expected to be kept on hold, but I think what's more pertinent and what will affect the markets more than the rate decision could well be Fed Powell's accompanying statement with Fed Powell under criminal investigation from the White House. His presidency the end of his presidency coming up in the middle of the year, who will replace him and what might he say that will affect the markets. And I think that could well have more of an impact on prices than even the rate, which I do expect to, or the consensus is that the rate will get kept on hold. But let's see whether the US dollar can some way fight back, or if we see continued uh, US dollar weakness, the sell-off continue, or possibly even go lower. Let's have a look at the S&P 500, a good hour and a half away until Wall Street opens up. But certainly in futures market, we're seeing strong S&P. We're seeing the index got with the support of 7,011 and already a record high at 7,042, giving up some of those gains now that the US session is underway. But we'll see whether we see continued demand for US equities throughout the course of the US session, particularly once we get the Fed announcement and after Powell has spoken. We'll see whether this green and whether we continue to see higher highs and demand for US equities or some kind of a turnaround, bounce off, maybe some profit taking, and then sellers looking back down at the 7,000 level. Let's have a look at gold, where I may well just hit the repeat button in my commentaries every day. A new day, a new record high. New record high today, 5,317, which is just unbelievable. I've got support at 5,152. We are seeing days of $100 gains and the unrelentless march higher with sellers just not stepping in regardless of overbought technicals. You would expect a bout of profit taking, but at this point, remember, because we're in uncharted territory, there are no previous resistance levels to work with from a technical analysis point of view, and sellers certainly just remaining on the sidelines and the strong rally just continuing. We'll see whether this can be maintained today. We'll see how the US dollar performs because part of this very strong push is in response to the inverse relationship between weak US dollar, strong gold. We'll see if this can continue or if at some point we see a bout of profit taking and a bounce down of these levels. But certainly another day of strong gold on the markets. Let's have a look at Brent oil. Strong day yesterday and continuing today. I've got support today at 66.14. I've got resistance at 67.16. Buyers looking, maintaining above the 67 level, looking higher. I believe the demand for oil is based on the fundamentals, based on Trump's new continued and new threats against Iran and the situation in Iran, possible supply issues, and that's certainly contributing to the push that we are seeing at the moment. We'll see whether buyers can continue this, maybe even looking up at that 70 level, the $70 level, but buyers on the front foot for now. And if anything, I think breaks to the upside and continued upside demand is looks more likely than anything that could turn things around at this point. Bitcoin. Bitcoin certainly trying, and there I see resistance that a little bit higher from just a little while ago. I've got resistance at 90,180 and I've got support at 88,500. But this 90,000 level we know is tough for buyers to break above, let alone maintain. Wasn't able to do that through December and able to do that big middle of January. And now once again, buyers looking to maintain above this 90,000 level, push higher, 92,000 and then 94,000. The goals on the upside. EMA is looking to cross to the upside. We'll see whether this can be maintained through the US session or if sellers do step in like they have done and sellers look back down at the below 90 at this 88,000 or below. But 3 strong days at this point on Bitcoin, higher highs, higher lows. We'll see whether that can be maintained. Good trading, keep that discipline, and I will see you at end of day session.